Yo, what up? Doshi here. Long time no see. I do plan on making a separate Jing and Sunday video. A video going over the life of Jing. This was a weird way to phrase the video I want to make, but it's going to be essentially a long documentary on Jing as a character. Just because I don't know, we've talked about this character more than any other character so far in terms of like historical analysis. And I find Jing to be very, very interesting as a character, especially the online premise surrounding the character too. It just fascinates me a lot. You know, also fascinates me the fact that Jing has received a buff before Seal. That's what fascinates me. Quantum hasn't received any love since the release of Silverwolf. I mean, we could say Sparkle, arguably, but Sparkle wasn't really just solely for Quantum. It was for any character that wanted skill points. So that doesn't really count too much. But I didn't expect the buff to be this catastrophic to the point where he is now a tier, in my opinion, tier 0 damage dealer. I consider him to be better than Acheron. That's just me, right? Like, I consider him to be better than Acheron, and I play with Acheron, I play with Jing, and I think he's better than Acheron versus Acheron at a E0 S1 level, right? But first, a word from Lootbar. Today's video is sponsored by Lootbar. Lootbar is a safe and cheaper option when it comes to buying your in-game currency. It takes the cheapest conversion currency rate and uses that for your top-up purchases. It's basically a middleman without potentially getting yourself in trouble with VPN usage. As a Star Rail creator, it gets really expensive to roll for every character, and I pretty much have to do so for these videos you're currently enjoying. The process is very simple. You click on March 7th, decide how much premium currency you're looking for, and then you add in your Star Rail UID after purchasing, and you will receive the said premium currency in a matter of moments. It's a very smooth and quick process. The other cool feature of this is if you're a player that has never topped it before and has the additional currency bonuses, you will receive those too upon your purchase. Even more jades for the upcoming characters. I'm definitely going to need them. As a new recipient of Lootbar, you get an extra coupon that allows you to save even more money on Stellar Jades. Check out the link in the description to save on Stellar Jades with Lootbar, and thanks again to Lootbar for sponsoring this video as always. The reason why Jing is now a tier 0 character, in my opinion, is because of the release of Sunday, who is also another tier 0 character. Now, various tier lists you probably will see does not show the character being tier 0, Sunday, and Jing. The reason being is because the premise surrounding Jing is still very skewed. The reason why is because Jing for a very long time has been a notorious character on the lower side of, I want to say, consistent damage versus other characters. And the reason why is because the Lightning Lord, for most people, was very frustrating to use as a mechanic for the character. Well, Sunday has now made that mechanic very streamlined and essentially extremely auto-friendly to the point where you will get consistent damage with the character. And with the further buffs that Sunday gives, you'll have even more damage for Jing and his Lightning Lord, which we'll get into in just a moment. This is a should you pull video, but I just want to talk about Sunday and Jing in this video. Now, the biggest thing that was pretty much holding Jing back from being a tier 0 character, a character that was actually just good in the meta, has always been the Lightning Lord. The Lightning Lord mechanic has always been the worst part of Jing's kit. And two reasons, right? The first reason being that Jing, unlike other characters that have summons in their kit, like for instance Topaz and Numby, Jing, if CC'd, his Lightning Lord doesn't take action, which is very, very frustrating because that is, at least, 75% of his overall damage. I'm not doing this off of calcs, this is just off the top of my head. Well, losing out on all that damage means the character virtually does no damage in single target scenarios. In AoE, it's a little different because then his damage is distributed alongside his elemental skill and ultimate, which was Sunday. Now, in the Pure Fiction and even the Apocalyptic Shadow, does a buttload, truckload of damage. Even in AoE scenarios, you'll see in Memories of Chaos, you'd still do so much damage. Like, for reference, one of his skills I use for Jing hit like 150,000. That is extremely high, right? Now, anyways, the Lightning Lord has always been a deal breaker for a lot of people when it's come to this character. But now Sunday is able to action for the Lightning Lord and allow the Lightning Lord to take the turn right after Jing, because he does action for Jing and the process too, which means you'll get those guaranteed Lightning Lord stacks from Jing, and you'll also be able to give this character more damage for his Lightning Lord and himself, which creates a consistent damage for the character right? Consistent damage, which again has always been his issue. Sunday also does have a cleanse, which allows Jing to not have to worry about being CC'd. And if you run him alongside characters like Fujuan, who is still a very solid character to use alongside Jing, and even Aventurine, who is also pretty good, especially with the crit damage debuff he does throw on the enemy, which increases Jing's overall Lightning Lord damage. He is virtually never CC'd when it comes to taking the turn with the Lightning Lord. It feels really good nowadays, like extremely good. Now, I've played with Jing and Sunday all night. Pause on that. I played with them for a while after the patch did drop. Jing has been a character I would say is a must-have when it comes to Sunday. You can use Sunday alongside other characters. He is still a very solid Harmony single target buffer offensive support, right? But I don't consider him to be extremely overwhelmingly better than Sparkle for quantum characters, right? So, like for instance, if you are someone who does have Sparkle in your account already, and let's say you have characters like Seal, right, who is still okay to use, not the best character, one of the worst characters in my opinion to use nowadays. If you have Seal and you have Sparkle, I wouldn't consider Sunday to be the biggest buff to Seal's team. And the reason being is because Seal is already extremely good alongside Sparkle. One of the best things Sparkle does do for quantum characters is give a truckload of attack if the quantum character does have enough other quantum allies in a party. You get up to 30% attack and then 15% attack from just Sparkle existing in the party, which means you'll have 45% of attack given from Sparkle at all points of the fight. It has no downtime, which is extremely good for quantum damage dealers. And you'll probably be running Fujuan in the team, which means you don't have to run Solo Wolf. You can run another character. Like, for instance, I like to use Robin nowadays because Robin does give buffs that is dependent on her own turn and action forward to the whole team, which feels really, really good. Sparkle is going to be very meta relevant when it comes to quantum characters, but we haven't had a quantum character, quantum DPS at that has released that has been good for Memory of Chaos, to where you felt like Sparkle was essentially irreplaceable in that quantum team, if that makes sense. So aside from that, Sunday is pretty much best in slot in every other scenario. I mean, again, you could still use him alongside Steel, but I wouldn't say he is worth the pools if you are trying to use him as a sole purpose of buffing, so if that makes sense. Because Sparkle does give the best buffs possible still. But characters that have summons in their kit alongside Sunday is irreplaceable. Like, I've used Topaz as a hyper carry, which isn't her best team anymore. It used to be before the release of other characters. Like, for instance, back in the day, Topaz as a hyper carry was actually pretty good before Ruame released. And then once Ruame released, then you replace Asta, and then you had Topaz alongside Jing and Ruame in the party, and it felt way better than using Topaz as a solo carry. She became more so a sub DPS oriented character. You could still use her as a hyper carry, and Sunday does allow you to deal a truckload of damage. For reference, my highest hit was like 122,000 on a skill from Topaz, with the ult buff, of course, from Topaz, and it felt extremely good. But that's not crazy damage, especially considering you now have Fei Zhao, who is a very strong contender of wanting to benefit alongside Topaz in terms of the damage that these two characters deal. Again, we're talking about a sub DPS character used nowadays versus a character that was used back then as a hyper carry. The times have changed, and that was like 1.4. We're all the way in, 2.7 now? 2.8? I don't even remember the numbers exactly. I'll remember when I make the upcoming video. Hyper carry Topaz just isn't as viable as it used to be. Now, as a standalone character, Sunday does give a ton of crit rate. He does give a ton of damage buffs. He does give crit damage. He gives a ton of energy to the ally you use the ultimate on, and he does give buffs that last for multiple turns, which means even if you forget to use your skill or you don't have any skill points, or let's just say you get stunned on Sunday, wherever that may happen, right? If you're not using Fujuan, you have a different support. Maybe you don't have Huo in your team party, who is also really good to use alongside Sunday, and your Sunday gets CC'd. Most of the time, you will still have those buffs on your Jing and any other summoned character just because of how long those buffs do last, which I found to be a very significant upgrade over other characters like Sparkle for exactly the Jing hyper carry team composition, and of course any other character that does want to have buffs lasting for multiple turns. extremely, extremely good in those scenarios. Very nice beginner-friendly character that essentially makes auto extremely good for Jing nowadays, like extremely good. I am happening to use the Brilliant Light Cone, which I found to be the best light cone, just because the character wants to have his ultimate as consistently as possible. Again, his ultimate is giving energy to the next ally, which means having him take more ultimates and give those ultimates to the ally will mean the ally gets more energy, which is extremely important for Jing and his Lightning Lord stacks, because Jing is a character that does benefit from having as high Lightning Lord stacks as possible, because correct me if I'm wrong, on one of his traces, if he does have, I believe, 10 Lightning Lord stacks, he does have, okay, if he has 6, then you get crit damage increase by 25%, which is very, very, very nice, alongside the crit damage buffs you already get from Sunday, right? But if you don't have this light cone, which some people won't have it right at this point, it's very unlucky if you don't have it. Other light cones would be his best in slot signature light cone, but as of right now, I don't suggest you going for that light cone, especially when this light cone already exists. And again, you don't want to lose 50-50 to a light cone, or 75-25, excuse me, to a light cone that isn't a part of the Harmony path. Ends up being a light cone for a character you may or may not use, right? Now, as for the team comp I like to use for Sunday alongside Jing has been Robin with Fujuan. You can use Aventurine instead of Robin. You can use Aventurine instead of Fujuan, and he gets the job done. And all honesty, if you have Aventurine on a lot of damage, he's going to feel extremely good alongside Robin, who already gives a ton of crit damage and follow-up attack damage buffs. Excuse me. Attack is only for Jing, right? Because Aventurine is a defense scaling character. So the damage buffs she does give does help Aventurine squeeze out more damage, which does help with the overall team damage. And of course, Aventurine does give the shield, which increases the effective res of the team party, allowing your Jing to not be debuffed as much. And again, the crit damage debuff he throws into the enemy increases the Lightning Lord final damage of Jing, which on top of the crit damage provided by Robin and the crit damage provided by Sunday, you're looking at a Jing that's going to hit extremely high. Like my highest hit so far has been 440,000 damage on the Lightning Lord hit. And from his own turn, Jing's own turn, my highest overall damage has been 710,000 damage from just one single turn, right? The skill, the ultimate, and the Lightning Lord taking the turn right after, which is insane for a hyper carry damage deal. Let me preface that. That is insane. Like, that's numbers I've never reached with a E0S1 damage dealer ever. I don't think I've ever even hit close to that with Jing Lu back in her peak. I don't think I ever hit that close with Acheron ever. The damage you get with this character is absolutely insane. Insane. And I do understand the Memories of Chaos now is tailored for Jing and Sunday, but god dang, that number was insane. The biggest issue I did face with using Robin alongside Sunday, though, I will say, is that because I already have a max refined, I don't have any extra copies of But the Battle Isn't Over, so I had to take away that light cone from Robin and give it to Sunday, which means Robin gets her ultimate a little less than I would prefer her to, and I don't use Gallagher just because I don't like using the character. I don't like the playstyle he does provide with the, quid pro quo, so my Robin doesn't get ult even, faster than that. So yeah, I am using a Forcer light cone, so it does feel a little mad at times, but the buffs she provides is still better than any other Harmony character I have on the account, and it does synergize pretty well with Sunday, who does give more turns, and Robin gives turns to the whole team, right? So yeah, overall, if you do have Jing, I consider Sunday to be a must pull. If you don't have Jing, you can honestly safely skip him. I don't see him being an extremely major upgrade for hyper carry teams over like a must pull, right? If you don't get this character, you can't clear the end game contents. I don't see him being a character like that for most hyper carry focused damage dealers in the game unless they have summons. Hyper carry summon Topaz doesn't really work as well. You just use her alongside Fei Zhao or use her alongside Jing, and that works fine, right? Jing is the only character that benefits from Sunday as of right now. And again, we should have more characters in the future with summons, but until those characters do release, I would just wait for Sunday on his rerun. You'll have a better understanding of what the meta is like then, especially with how much the meta does not constantly change, excuse me, how the characters kind of go up and down when it comes to relevance in Honkai Star Rail nowadays. especially how fast that is, the process. I would be especially careful nowadays rolling for characters on your account, especially if you are someone who does not spend money on the game, right? That's all I'm going to say. For all content, too, it feels like he essentially replaced Acheron in taking the tier 0 tier away from her, and now he's the tier 0 character for all contents alongside Sunday. Like, again, if you'll see in the video, but if you have the character, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That's it. Thank you for watching, and have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.